What's up, Gator Nation? Welcome into our latest rapid reaction following Florida's 24-17 win over Ole Miss in the Swamp. Quite the surprising result, Andy. Florida was double-digit underdogs.
Yep.
Jackson Dart came out hot, threw for 300
Trey Harris
yards.
was back, caught a touchdown pass early.
Beautiful play.
Yeah, that's the thing. When you saw the way they started, you said, okay, there's a possibility that Ole Miss runs away with this. But then as you got closer to halftime, especially I think, the way DJ Lagway led Florida on that second touchdown drive, and the way they scored on that second touchdown with the great little screen, Damian George looking like a kid in a candy store when he sees that safety just standing there.
Brendan Crenshaw-Dixon getting bailed out on not the block in the back.
Come on, you got to go to that. But no, it was one of those things where you felt it starting, but in at halftime, you're like, okay, this is a game.
Yeah,
this is going to be a competitive game throughout. You didn't know if Florida was going to be able to win, but they did. And think about all the just psychic freight on this game.
Yeah.
Because it's Lane Kiffin, because it's Ole Miss needing this to make the playoff.
Yep.
Because
Florida needs bowl eligibility.
Which I think they would have gotten it against Florida State, but now they've got it.
Yeah.
It was
a better bowl.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It was a lot all at once. And, it's I've said this, and I was talking to Edgar Thompson for Orlando Sentinel about this between press conferences. Everybody talks about turning things around.
Yeah.
Nobody ever actually does. Like this team has.
They have. And it didn't look like they were capable of it after those first two games against FBS teams. Looks like they were dead in the water. Billy said it again. That bye week is when everything changed. But let's be honest. Things really changed when DJ Lagway became QB1 for Florida.
I have wondered about that. And it's a morbid question. But if Graham doesn't get hurt, does all of this happen? Because I think ultimately you probably decide DJ's the guy, and I think Graham's the kind of person who, even if he was healthy, would be like, yeah, I understand, I get it, he's different, and they'd probably get there anyway. Yeah, but they really had no choice at that point.
They did, and things weren't necessarily trending in that direction. I think they would have tried to keep sticking with the two quarterback system throughout. And I don't know if we would have seen this, and then I don't know if we would have seen these results.
I think a lot of it's DJ playing with the ones. Like, it's hard to get maybe for Graham, who's in year 5 as a college football player, but for a guy in year 1, it's hard to get that consistency without practicing with the ones the entire time. And you've seen it since he became the starting quarterback. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the Georgia game will be one of the great what ifs because of him getting hurt in the middle of it.
Yeah.
But it's clear. And I've come around on this, Zach. I don't know how you feel. I was of the mind that, look, there's always another 5-star quarterback. If you're doing it right, you're signing a very highly rated quarterback every year anyway.
Sure.
But I think the DJ Lagway, watching him in person for a lot of this season, has kind of disabused me of that. Now it's like, okay, if you have that guy who's one of the 2, 3, 4 special guys in the country, which I think he probably is.
I agree.
That's the guy. And that's more important than the coach. It's more important than everything else because everybody wants to play with that guy.
And we heard Lane say this week and talk about the Lagway effect.
Yep.
And how when he is playing quarterback for the Gators, this team is different, not just on offense, but on defense as well. They just believe, they have hope. They feel like they can win these games. And he didn't have a crazy performance today, but he made some incredible throws where he evaded pressure, should have been sacked.
He didn't evade pressure so much as make a throw pinpoint for a first down with a person draped on him
twice in the same drive. But the Gators had to have him play well. They also had to have their defense play well. And for the second week in a row, they got pressure. They got turnovers. And what they did good today, which is what they didn't do last week, is actually get off the field on third down consistently.
Yes.
This was their best third down performance of the season.
The play of the game defensively, and there could have been a lot of it, but I'll give you one. So it's funny because been watching Ole Miss all season, so I know about the J.J. Pegues package. If this is your first Ole Miss game, if you've just been watching Florida games and you haven't watched Ole Miss, like, it's a surprise when you see this 325-pound defensive tackle getting, running out of the Wildcat.
Yeah.
But they do it a lot. And they made a couple first downs with it. They got stopped once early, but they were 3 for 4 doing it, either on third or fourth down. And they're down in the red zone. And they give it to him again.
And they were down by a field goal at the time.
Right. And Miles Graham, freshman, linebacker, son of Ernest, comes up and just smacks it. Like Miles Graham is giving up 90 pounds to JJ Pegues, and he just stands him straight up, and then Cam Jackson grabs him and pulls him down before he can get the first down. It was incredible. Like, that's not what you thought this Florida defense would be capable of watching them early this season.
Yeah, and they've really turned a corner. Caleb Banks has been playing out of his mind the last couple weeks. 2.5 sacks a day. That's a career high.
I thought Castile had a good game too.
He did. He made one of those stops on the other turnover on downs.
And I think the big hit on the first series was a big tone setter. Yes, they threw a flag, but once they reviewed it, took them 10 seconds to figure out it wasn't targeting.
Yeah.
And it was a huge tone setter.
And you mentioned Trey Harris. He left the game with an injury. Another key injury for Florida that maybe got overlooked in this whole thing was Aaron Gates going out.
Yes.
I mean, he had been Florida's best defender, and he goes out with what looked like a knee injury.
Yeah, he's pointing at his knee as soon as it happened.
And now Florida is playing – they are down to their only guy at every single spot in the secondary. I would imagine that Denson, along with the 2 corners and 2 safeties, played every single snap today.
Yeah. Well, and they were getting – like, you could tell the defense was getting tired there in the second half because, remember, Ole Miss's defense really came out great at the beginning of the second half.
They did. Florida only got 10 yards in the third quarter.
Florida couldn't really do anything against them, so they kept handing the ball back, and that put Florida's defense at a disadvantage because they're on the field so much. But those guys stepped up, and the 2 interceptions to seal it. It was actually 3 interceptions to seal it. But one it didn't survive the ground.
Yeah,
it was a good overturn, but to come back and then do it again, was even more impressive.
Now we did this last week. Appreciate everybody joining us for the second week in a row, and we said, hey, win over LSU, big deal.
Yeah,
they have not arrived. They still have. This one's a little different. I still don't think that they've arrived, but now going out and recruiting this offseason and the buy-in from the fans is on a different level.
Well, and the recruiting piece of it really comes down to who wants to play next year with DJ Lagway. And I'm not talking just about high school recruiting because they're going to get some flips.
Yeah.
Whether it's, Naeem Offord, Jamie French, the people that they're going after that are obvious flip targets. I'm talking about guys we don't know yet who will be in the portal in 2 weeks.
That are probably already hitting them up.
Oh, no doubt. No question. DJ Lagway's phone is probably melted from players who are currently on other college football teams who want to come play with him. So that's the piece of it. And that's where I'll kind of tie in Ole Miss here. As mad as the Ole Miss fans are, as disappointed as everybody is there, they did the right thing this offseason.
Yes.
They were in position to make the playoff. They did not get it done today, but their process was sound. They had the roster to make the playoff. They had the roster to actually make a dent in the playoff if they got in. That is what Florida needs to do.
Correct.
That's what Florida needs to do in the next 6 weeks is do the same thing Ole Miss did roster-wise, add to what they've got. I think, edges, receivers.
Yeah.
Those are probably your
need to go get a right tackle because you're losing Brendan Crenshaw.
Exactly. And that's the thing. They're going to lose some people. There's some guys that may have played their way into going to the NFL toward the end of the season. So they need to fix that part of it. But there's a chance they could be really good. Now, I want to ask the fans this one because I went on SiriusXM on Friday and I was talking to Chris Childers and Rick Neuheisel, and they asked me about Billy Napier and what happened here. And I said, the players have played really hard for Billy Napier. It's not something you normally see. Usually when everybody declares a coach fired, and I'm one of those people, I was wrong. I fully admit I was wrong on that. When you declare the coach dead man walking, the players usually kind of quit on him.
Yeah.
These guys never did.
Never did.
In fact, they played harder for him. And I had some guy email me after that. I was like, I heard you on SiriusXM, and you said they played harder for Billy Napier. They played harder for DJ Lagway. I'm like, no, they did. They were playing harder when Graham Mertz was still the starter. Like, this is real. These players do love Billy Napier. So I know just from writing about this and interacting with folks on the message board and on Twitter that they, it feels like most of the fan base was still very much out on Billy Napier after the announcement that they were going to bring him back, even after the LSU win. What about now? Where's everybody at now? Because I'm not trying to guide anybody's answer. I'm genuinely curious.
How many people are still not believing?
Yeah, because here's the thing: the idea was to create a team and a roster and a program that in November can beat teams that are
contenders,
allegedly bound for the college football playoff. That is precisely what happened today.
And you got to admit that if they don't lose their starting quarterback at Tennessee and Georgia, they could have easily won those games.
Right.
And we're talking about a completely different team.
Tennessee, I mean, so many different things could have won them that game. That actually, I think that one hurt Billy Napier with the fans more than a lot of things. But the Georgia game, that was the one where I was like, so they really are playing very hard for
In hindsight, now that we saw how Georgia lost to Ole Miss, Florida should have won that game. I mean, you mentioned the vote.
But I do want to say, all you fans, like, don't come tell me that you were behind Billy all the way. I know you weren't. Like, there may have been one or two of you, but
there were some people, maybe the minority, that were still quietly supporting him. But there was a very loud
when I wrote majority that thing saying there's a possibility they may say they're going to bring him back.
They were not happy.
No.
And you mentioned Scott's vote of confidence. Don't forget, right after that, they just got blasted at Texas.
Yes.
And the timing of that.
It felt like that was sort of we know this is going to happen, so let's say this. But now that
I don't know. They didn't know that this was going to happen.
And I realized DJ didn't play that game, but it actually makes what happened in that game feel even weirder.
It also makes it, I won't say irrelevant, but
it does. It's irrelevant.
It just, I don't think that they maybe saw what was coming these last 2 weeks.
Also, if you'd said before the season with this schedule, 7-5, they beat Ole Miss. They're in the game. They're playing an overtime game in Knoxville. They're in the game against Georgia with a walk-on quarterback. You'd have been like, "Oh, that's fine."
No, 100%.
So,
and Napier said this week that Florida's the only team that's played as many teams in the top 10 of the college football rankings as they have. They played more teams in the top 15 as well. Not that makes anybody feel bad about those results, but Florida doesn't have any bad losses.
Yeah. Well, the schedule was so hard, it was almost impossible to take one. But Willie Peterson in the chat, let's watch recruits decommit from other schools now because of Lagway. I think that's exactly what you're about to see. You're about to see a lot of that.
Yeah.
Plus, the other thing is, Florida's high school recruiting specifically was very kind of tied to what happens to Billy. What does this mean? And without any clarity about what was going to happen with him next year, there probably weren't going to be a lot of people who were willing to cast in. Now they are, and I don't think the collective put out a lot of big offers because of that.
No.
But now they can.
Yes. And now they probably have much more money to play with.
Yeah.
They're going to have more people that are willing to invest in this team, invest in building a roster because of Lagway, because of the wins that they've got, because of the improvement on defense. There's a lot to like about where this program's trending right now.
Yeah, which is crazy, because if you'd asked me that after the Texas A&M game, I would have said you were nuts.
I don't know if Billy believed that they could turn around.
That's the part I'm trying to figure out is because I remember going to his coach's show the Thursday before the UCF game, and he was talking about, in the bye week had this practice, the best practice in my 20 years coaching, and I'm thinking like, yeah, whatever. But he meant every word of it.
Yeah, he did.
And then we talked to Cam Jackson about it today, and I said, was it really that great? And he's like, yeah. He's like, most competitive 2 practices I've ever been in with that bye week. So it's strange.
What was your bye week like during your days at Florida?
I remember I got moved to a different dorm one bye week because I was trying to get out of walk-ons don't get any preferred dorm treatment, so I was in a triple.
Okay.
And so I got to move to a double. That was the highlight of my
you were
bye
definitely
week.
moving.
Exactly. But no, I mean,
he said today sometimes they're disasters,
and he's right. And that could have been where everybody quit.
Yeah.
And nobody did.
It was also, remember, UCF was at that point where you had the red shirt still in play, where guys could decide to shut it down, and that didn't happen.
And I just got to tell everybody, like, I've been doing this for a long time, and I cover all these programs. And of course, when it looks like a coach is in trouble, obviously we're paying very close attention to it. So seen this in a lot of different places. I've never seen a team bounce back like this when it looked like the coach was done. I've never seen it.
Nor have I. I've only been covering Florida since
I've seen coaches that started a season on the hot seat that had a good year, and then they kept their job. And like Neil Brown last year was a great example of that. Neil Brown at West Virginia last year, where they picked him to finish last. He's like, we're not finishing last, and they won 9 games.
But at Florida, man, when things start trending in the negative direction,
like you said it though, it's like the reverse. Or no, as soon as Edgar said it, maybe it's the reverse McElwain, the reverse Mullen, the reverse.
Yes, because they all had early success. Remember,
Yeah.
Muschamp had the 11-2 season in 12.
Yep.
And obviously, it's taken a while for Florida to get those wins. But man, when you came back from Oxford after they beat Georgia, you did not see this.
No, God, no. Ole Miss was unbelievable that day against Georgia. Just beat Georgia to a pulp. And you hadn't seen anybody do that to Kirby Smart's Georgia.
Yeah.
And so I figured, okay, they've turned the corner. They've figured this out. But I don't really think this was a case of Ole Miss playing terribly. I don't think they played their best game. But Florida just straight up beat them. Like there's no excuse making for Ole Miss or anything like